I know this video is going to make a lot of people uncomfortable, but someone needs to say what most men refuse to see. If you're in a relationship and you don't want to end up broke, frustrated and lost, you need to hear this before it's too late. What I'm about to tell you isn't about hate, it's about awareness, and awareness is the first step to freedom. The truth is, most men lose their power not at work, not in their finances, but inside their relationships. Yes, that's where it happens. Between love and routine, many men start to shrink, to stop growing, to trade their dreams for small doses of approval. And it all happens so subtly that you barely notice it, until one day you wake up and realize you're no longer in control of your own energy. And here's the part no one has the guts to say. There are emotional and behavioral dynamics that drain a man's focus without him even realizing it. And no, this isn't about all women. It's about a pattern that repeats itself in many modern relationships. A pattern that rewards dependence and punishes masculine ambition. And if you don't understand this, you'll keep confusing love with self-sacrifice. Have you ever noticed that when a man starts to rise, when he begins to build something real, there's always a force trying to balance it out? As if the world, and sometimes even the person beside him, wants to keep him at the same level. That's the danger of emotional naivety, assuming every act of love is support, when sometimes it's control. And that's why so many men live tired, stagnant, and guilty for wanting more. What I'm about to reveal isn't an attack on women, it's a mirror for men. Because here's the truth, if you want to become a man of value, you need to understand the dynamics that drain your purpose. And you need to learn how to love without losing yourself. This video might be uncomfortable, but it will free you from a pattern that traps 90% of ordinary men. Now that you understand the starting point, we need to talk about what really makes most men fall into this trap without even realizing it. Because the problem doesn't start with women. It starts with men's own automatic behavior. The invisible trap men fall into in relationships. Most men believe that being a good partner means always putting the woman first. They grow up hearing, happy wife, happy life, and that true love requires sacrifice. So they sacrifice time, focus, ambition, money, all in the name of making the relationship work. But the price is devastating. They lose themselves. Almost every man who's stuck financially has one thing in common. At some point, he started trading his purpose for emotional peace in the relationship. He started saying yes when he meant no. And little by little, he gave up small pieces of himself, until all that was left was what pleased her. Many men spend their entire lives believing that being kind is the same as being submissive. They confuse love with emotional dependence. They think balance in a relationship comes from self-denial. But balance doesn't come from sacrifice. It comes from respect. You probably do this without realizing it. You skip investing in a project because it'll cause tension. You stop hanging out with friends because she doesn't like it. You stop dreaming big because it's not the right time. And little by little, the fire that once drove you starts to fade. The modern man has become an expert at asking for permission to exist. He's afraid of being judged for having ambition, afraid of being called selfish for wanting to grow. And that fear is the invisible leash holding the most talented men back. Most guys think the problem is the woman, but it's not. The problem is a weak sense of identity. Men who don't know who they are end up becoming whatever the relationship needs, not what their destiny demands. And when you live to please, you lose the respect and natural leadership that true masculinity carries. Meanwhile, the cycle repeats itself. He gives everything, receives little, and still feels guilty for not being enough. The relationship gets heavier, the purpose fades, and prosperity simply stops. It's not bad luck, it's misdirected energy. And that's where the real danger lies. This pattern disguises itself as mature love, but it's really self-sabotage dressed up as romance. And the deeper a man falls into that role, the poorer, emotionally and financially, he becomes. Now that you understand the most common mistake, we need to talk about the hidden price of staying stuck in this pattern, because what seems like just a rough phase is actually stealing years of your life and opportunities that will never come back. The invisible price of losing yourself for love. The problem is, this behavior seems harmless at first. You think it's just a phase, or I'll get back to my plans later. But months turn into years, and before you know it, you're no longer the man you wanted to be. You've become the version the relationship molded, and the result, you lose your spark. You lose the fire that once made you fight. Life turns into routine, purpose becomes a burden, and love starts to feel like an obligation. And when a man loses his sense of direction, the whole world loses respect for him, including the person beside him. Behavioral psychology studies show that men who live in a state of self-denial have higher levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. In other words, the more you try to please, the more your body perceives it as danger. You live in constant alert, tired, tense, unproductive, and low productivity always leads to financial scarcity. Napoleon Hill once said, "Repressed desire is the beginning of all poverty." And that's exactly what happens. The man who suppresses himself to please others begins to sabotage his own progress. He procrastinates, gets easily distracted, and loses his sense of worth, because deep down he knows he's not living his truth. And you know what's worse? Most men realize it too late. They realize it when the relationship ends, and they see they stopped growing for someone who's no longer even there. They realize it when their body breaks down, when money stops flowing, when their soul no longer responds. It's the silent collapse of modern masculinity. Here's a hard truth. No one respects a man who denies his own power. Not his woman, not his friends, not the marketplace. Respect is born from inner strength, and every time you chase external validation, that strength fades a little more. Then it hits you. Time doesn't come back. The projects you didn't start now belong to someone else. The energy you spent keeping a broken us together could have built your empire, and regret becomes your most loyal companion. This is the silent trap, destroying thousands of men. They don't break all at once. They slowly wither. First ambition fades, then focus, then desire, until all that's left is exhaustion and conformity. And the world calls that a stable relationship. The problem is, stability without growth is a prison, and every prison begins with a good intention poorly managed. The man who trades freedom for emotional comfort is unknowingly selling his own future, and the price of that sale is his identity. But hold on, because there is a way out. It just goes against everything the market and even some so-called relationship gurus try to sell you. In the next part, I'll show you how modern masculinity's biggest illusion is built and who profits when you become a domesticated man. The great illusion. The system doesn't want strong men. Have you noticed how everything today seems designed to keep you confused? Culture, movies, music, even the so-called love coaches all repeat the same mantra. Be vulnerable. Show your emotions. Women love sensitive men. But here's what no one tells you. Sensitivity without purpose is weakness. The system needs obedient men, predictable men who'll accept anything just to avoid being alone. Men who confuse peace with passivity. Because a man who knows himself, who sets boundaries, who moves with purpose, he's dangerous to any structure built on control. These love gurus sell you a version of balance that in practice neutralizes masculinity. They tell you to listen more and act less. They preach that a real man doesn't need to prove anything. But here's the truth. If you don't prove anything, you don't build anything. And the man who doesn't build obeys. Social media feeds this illusion too. They show you perfect couples, expensive dinners, luxury trips, and you start believing that success means being accepted. But real masculine success isn't about being accepted, it's about being needed. And you become needed when you have purpose, not when you seek approval. Even many women, not all, but a significant number, have been conditioned to play into this system. They've absorbed the narrative that the ideal man is the one who does everything for them. And what does that create? A one-sided relationship where the man becomes the emotional and financial provider and the woman becomes the behavior inspector. Love turns into a contract, not a connection, and the market profits from this weakness. Think about it. How many products, courses, or therapies are built to convince you that you're not enough? They sell you the problem, then sell you the cure, and both keep you exactly where you are. It's an emotional manipulation cycle disguised as self-improvement. But what happens when a man wakes up? He becomes a threat, because a man who's aware, grounded, and focused can't be controlled. He stops being a client, stops being dependent, and starts owning his own energy. That's why this message feels wrong to so many people. It breaks an entire belief system built to feed male mediocrity. The system prefers the man who loves too much and thinks too little. But the man who learns to think deeply starts to love with wisdom and prosper with freedom. Now that you see the game behind the game, it's time for the most important part, the solution, the unconventional truth that separates ordinary men from men of value. The out-of-the-box secret. How to be a man of value without losing yourself. What really works isn't running from love, it's redefining a man's place within it. The secret is learning how to connect without losing your center, without giving away your life force in exchange for approval. That's not coldness, it's emotional leadership. And emotional leadership is the greatest hallmark of a man of value. Step 1, simple but brutal. Choose yourself again. Before there can be a we, there must be a strong I. Men who forget themselves become a burden to others. Men who prioritize themselves become an example, and that alone changes everything inside a relationship. Step 2, rebuild your purpose. Every man needs a mission that exists outside of romantic love. When your energy is directed toward building something bigger, you naturally become more attractive, more stable, more respected. Purpose is the antidote to emotional dependence. It's the invisible root of your strength. Step 3, relearn how to say no. No is the boundary line of your freedom. If you don't know how to say it, anyone can steer your life. A man of value isn't rude, he's clear, and clarity is what modern masculinity desperately lacks. Step 4, never enter a relationship looking for peace. Enter looking for growth. Because the peace that keeps you from evolving isn't love, it's anesthesia. True love challenges you, inspires you, and pushes you to rise higher. But that growth only happens when you have the internal structure not to lose yourself in the process. Step 5, protect your energy. It's almost spiritual. That means having masculine rituals, time alone, training, projects, silence, study. These are the practices that recharge your mind and body. Without them, you become a prisoner of someone else's emotions. Jordan Peterson once said, "Before you try to change the world, set your own house in perfect order." That's the foundation of real masculinity. Self-mastery. Men without self-mastery confuse intensity with love and chaos with passion. But once you master your mind and direct your focus, everything aligns, including love. Here's a mindset shift few ever talk about. The more you evolve as a man, the healthier your relationships become. Because balanced women don't want submissive men, they want secure ones. And security isn't born from pleasing others, it's born from deeply knowing yourself. Another secret, Never outsource your happiness. When you hand someone else the power to make you happy, you lose your power to prosper. A man's happiness is the result of discipline, and discipline is self-love in action. It's what separates the average man from the man who inspires. If you truly want to prosper, you need to align your masculine energy with abundance, and abundance doesn't coexist with guilt. As long as you feel guilty for wanting more money, more freedom, more success, you'll keep repelling prosperity. Growth isn't selfish, it's your duty. A man of value doesn't run from responsibility, but he also refuses to be manipulated by emotional guilt. He knows how to balance love and purpose, kindness and boundaries, empathy and direction. And that balance makes him magnetic, prosperous and deeply respected. The right woman doesn't want to tame you, she wants to walk beside a king. If you want a practical tool to start today, grab a notebook and write down 3 questions. 1. What am I doing just to please others? 2. What did I stop doing that used to make me feel alive? 3. What do I need to reclaim in myself to start growing again? Your answers will show you exactly where your energy is being stolen. Remember, a healthy relationship is the sum of 2 whole people, not 2 halves. You weren't born to complete anyone, you were born to overflow. And you only overflow when you're full of purpose, clarity, and direction. Prosperity begins the moment a man becomes the owner of himself. So no, it's not about leaving your girlfriend, it's about no longer being an emotional prisoner. When you grow, love grows with you. But if you erase yourself, even love will abandon you. Being a man of value means choosing every single day to live in high vibration, even when the world wants to keep you small. Now that you've understood the foundation of this transformation, the next part will show you what that evolution looks like in practice. The new you that emerges when a man starts living with purpose, power, and truth. The rebirth of the man of value. When a man reconnects with his purpose, everything changes. His energy changes, his voice changes, his gaze changes. He stops begging for attention and starts radiating presence. And presence is what separates an ordinary man from an unforgettable one. You start walking differently. Every step has direction. You're no longer reacting to life, you're leading it. And that's magnetic. People notice it. The world responds to it. The woman who used to test you now respects you. Not because you've become cold, but because you finally have boundaries. You no longer need to shout to be heard or prove your worth. Your energy speaks for you, steady, quiet, unshakable. Financially, doors start to open. Because a man who knows who he is makes quick, decisive choices. He doesn't waste time on emotional distractions, and the time he once spent explaining himself, he now uses to build. You wake up lighter, full of purpose. Fatigue turns into focus, anxiety turns into direction, fear turns into fuel. It's as if an ancient force within you has finally awakened. This is the state of a man of value, centered, productive, aware, and dangerous in the best possible way. Dangerous because he can't be manipulated. Dangerous because he isn't needy. Dangerous because he's whole again. And the most beautiful part? True love doesn't disappear, it becomes purer. The right woman isn't afraid of your power, she admires it. She rises with you because she understands that masculine leadership isn't domination, it's direction. And when a man leads with awareness, love thrives. You don't need to be perfect, you need to be present. You don't need to know everything, you just need direction. And once you have direction, the universe aligns, opportunities appear, resources flow, the right people show up, because the world respects the man who respects himself. This is the new you, a man of value who's learned to love without losing himself, to grow without guilt, and to live without fear. A man who understands that prosperity isn't about having more, it's about becoming more. And when you become more, Everything around you rises with you. Now that you've seen what this transformation looks like, it's time to solidify the vision and turn this energy into movement. In the next part, I'll guide you through the final summary and the call to action, so you can step up and become part of this new movement of conscious men. The call to the man of value. Now you understand what no one ever told you. You've seen that a man's poverty doesn't begin in his bank account, it begins in his mind. It starts the moment he stops choosing himself, stops standing firm, stops moving toward his mission, and it ends the moment he wakes up and takes back control of his own energy. You've realized the real mistake isn't loving too much, it's losing yourself in love. That the real danger isn't the woman, it's the lack of purpose, and the consequence is devastating. Men drained, insecure, paralyzed. But you've also seen that there is a way out, by returning to your center, your balance, your focus. The illusion the system sells looks beautiful, but it's expensive. It convinces you that being good means being submissive, that being sensitive means being weak, and that success is something to feel guilty about. But the man of value breaks that cycle. He's kind and firm, sensitive and unshakable, prosperous and grounded. That's the new masculine archetype, rare but necessary. Now it's your turn, because this video isn't about me, it's about you. About the man who still lives inside you, waiting to reclaim the throne of his own life. And that throne isn't given, it's earned through discipline, clarity, and courage. So if this message opened your mind, just wait for what's coming next. Comment "awakened" below, so I know you're one of the men who decided to rise, and hit follow, because no one else is giving you this kind of truth for free. This is the movement of men returning to high vibration. Men who lead with purpose, protect with presence, and inspire by example. We're not against love, we're for conscious men. Men who lead with presence, protect with purpose, and inspire through action. And if you've made it this far, it's because that man has already begun to awaken within you. Now it's time to act, because the world doesn't need more exhausted men, it needs men of value.